Oh my golly goodness gracious. The things that went wrong this week with Create. I started this morning so excited and so ready for the day. And I don't feel bad right now. I just think I don't feel amazing. This morning I woke up and it's Create launch day. Woo! Which is very exciting. I felt super good. I logged onto my laptop and as soon as it all went live, Sunday night, I decided that I needed to change the sales page from Stan to something else because I couldn't link all of the products that someone gets when they sign up in one thing. So it made no sense. So long story short, it was really confusing and I decided to change it. And I was recording all this, by the way, on Sunday night. I was starving. I ended up changing it to Squarespace. That was my first time making a Squarespace product, so I had to try and figure out how to do it. I also ended up downloading Circle and figuring that out. And I had filmed this all as a way to intro this video. And then Monday happens and then I end up deleting the footage because I was like, oh, well, I've already posted last week's video. I don't need anything on the SD card. Dumbo. So I had already started my week off terribly because I deleted that footage. And also because Create went live and I had already had a newsletter email like ready to go out with the link to be like, doors are open, you can get your tickets. And the link I attached was the wrong link. Idiot. And then I had to send another email with the right link. And then I had so many unsubscribes to my email list, which I still get, it's fine. Then there's been like quite a few problems with people actually checking out. And then I realized final problem was that I couldn't have payment plans on Squarespace. I wanted everyone to be able to join if they wanted to. So I needed there to be an option for payment plans. I just totally forgot. So then I decided to go back to Stan store. That's it. It's honestly, it's been such a whirlwind this week. This is going to be the kind of video that I hope nobody sees. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna share my strategic launch plan of how I have rebranded and relaunched Create, the structure of what's included in Create, and how I kind of figured out why that's gonna work for me as well as the students that join, and a little bit on what the fuck I wouldn't do if I was launching a course. So for anyone tempted in making a course, a product, all that kind of stuff, maybe this might be helpful. So what happened this week? I relaunched my group mastermind. Honestly, it was a total rebrand. I used to call it a course, now I'm calling it a mastermind. Why? The word course icked me out. That's point number one. Point number two, I know that it's so much more than a course. To summarize, it's 3 months long. There's 12 intensive lessons that gets dropped once per week, bi-weekly live sessions, and a community that we post in like nearly every day, and also my editing course. So I'm like, it's so much more than a course. That's why I've called it a mastermind. And oh my God, it's been insane. It's been the busiest, craziest week ever. I felt so productive. I've got loads done, but there's also been so many problems. Of course, so many problems. And there's also just so much other work that I'm doing as well as creating so much content for the course, for my Instagram, my TikTok, and YouTube. So there's just like a lot of creation, a lot of thinking, a lot of writing going on. And I'm loving it, but it's just crazy. And I think it's tough when you have something that you're launching because you have goals in mind and you obviously want to do it strategically. You want it to go well. You want it to go as well as you had, you know, planned in your mind. So there's definitely a big element of pressure and a big element of strategy around how you're planning the launch. I've listened to endless podcasts and YouTube videos about launches in preparation for this. And yeah, of course, all the things had to go wrong, you know. It wouldn't be a launch week without it, right? But the one thing that I will say is that it's Saturday. It's like nearly been like 5 days of it being launched and I'm really proud of it, which is such a nice feeling. Anyway, I totally rebranded it. The last time that I launched it was March 2025 and now it's October. And I had all the intentions to do it at some point during the summer. And the reason that I didn't was because something was holding me back and I didn't know what it was until I eventually figured it out, and I will share that with you. But it was holding me back. I kept saying, I'll launch soon, until I realized that I needed to rebrand so that it actually felt exciting for me. And I actually felt like I am providing value to the people that are joining. That was the most important part. I think we have 11 people in so far, and there's a couple of people that are repeats from Create 2.0 and 1.0, and I'm so excited, genuinely. Like, it fills my heart full of joy. And I know that like it's so much hard work, but it's so worth it when it genuinely makes me beam just spending time with these people and actually making them feel so much more confident about what they're doing. I think that's the big thing. 5 days into launch, it's going well. I'm really proud of it and I'm really excited. Why the rebrand? What did you change and why? To be honest, I had no idea what I was doing the first time that I ran Create 1.0. No idea. It was initially called Confidently Create. That's what it's been called for the first and the second round. To bring you all the way back, the reason that I decided to create a course in the first place was because of my lovely friend Isabel. Isabel's been a massive part of my growth journey ever since Floofy Social started. I remember when I first started posting content, and Isabel was the person, she said this to me on a call, she almost gave me a content strategy. She was like, I think because of like the person that you are and what you want to talk about, I think you should be sharing something like this. That's all I needed. All I needed was a little bit of direction and someone to believe in the ideas that I want to share with the world. And I felt so powerful. So thank you, Isabel. I think it's so important to have someone in your life, in your career, that you can actually just spitball ideas with. I have never even met Isabel in person, which kills me. And I've known her for like 5 years. We're Instagram friends. And it's so possible, if you feel like you don't have any real life friends, it's very possible to make an Instagram friend or a YouTube friend. Have them as like a supportive accountability buddy, as long as you're not getting catfished. I'm gonna bring you back to, I wanna say, probably April 2024. So Floofy Socials had pretty much like just launched. I was getting going with like editing for a couple of different people. I had just started posting content on my own Instagram, but it wasn't the content that I was posting now. I was still posting like trendy videos. I was just trying to hop on things that worked for other people, not things that I actually wanted to create for myself. So I was in a place of not really feeling like I had figured it out, although I was still very, very proud of myself because the older Mia was working in corporate, feeling like she was in a job that drained the actual life out of her and just felt like she had no purpose. And I think especially that older Mia always wanted to do something creative, but because she never went to university or like did anything to do with like, you know, learning, it felt impossible. And then we fast forward to today. If only she knew. The April 2024 version of Mia. I was proud of myself. I quit my job. I started working freelance. I was figuring out how to make my own money for myself and not for some massive big company that doesn't give a you. I was proud of myself. However, I still didn't feel like I had my shit together. I still didn't feel like I could confidently tell someone how to do the same thing as me when I felt like I wasn't really fully there yet. At that time, all I was doing was video editing and posting some content. Isabel is incredible. She is a genius, and she posts like mindfulness stuff, but also kind of like big sistery, like go do the fucking thing kind of content. And then she asked whether I'd consider co-hosting a course together, but I was terrified because I had no idea how to run a course. I didn't even really know like what the structure of a course would be, how to sell a course, why someone would even want to join a course. My brain, it could not understand it. I had no idea. So we met a few times, we like designed it all, figured it all out, and I was promoting it for a little bit. My problem though was that because I was in that stage of not knowing or not feeling like I had figured it out for myself, I didn't feel like I was the right person to share that with the world. And I think that was a very good honesty call from myself. I felt terrible because in the end I ended up pulling out of co-hosting it with Isabel. So obviously I felt like a really, really bad friend, but I had to listen to my gut because I just knew that it wasn't the right time. I remember at that time as well, I had gotten really sick. You know, when you get a flu and the flu lasts for 2 weeks, and then I had all this client work that I was behind on. And then I knew that I still had to promote the course, but I wasn't feeling like I was the best person to host it. So it really just didn't sit right with me. I pulled out. Best thing I think I could have done. And it actually turned out to be the best thing for Isabel as well, because then Isabel went off, she taught the course for the first time by herself, and she felt like such a baddie, and she did an amazing job, and now that's her main course. Round of applause for Isabel. So then maybe like 7-8 months later, like towards the end of the year, my content started performing incredibly well. I became a much better video editor. I'd worked with a lot of clients by the end of the year. It's crazy how like Floofy Socials as like a growth, it was literally like this. like constantly. So I was like also constantly in a cycle of burnout. So oh my goodness, it's been the wildest 2 years. This is just such a behind the scenes of what's going on. The thing that made me decide I want to teach a course, I was offering a lot of one-to-one content strategy sessions by that point. I've said this in my first video. Calls genuinely drain me. Using my voice and having to think and use my voice for a long time, like back to back, kills me. I genuinely could be empty, like my battery could be empty for 2 days. So I was doing a lot of one-to-one strategy, and then off the back of that, it was actually really affecting like my productivity levels with all the other work that I was doing for the rest of the week. So if I had 2 strategy calls in one day, or even one, a lot of the time I would not be able to get into flow state or even like into like deep work mode because of like how tired my brain felt. And especially when you have to do something creative, like make a video and make it really engaging, you just have to be 100% energy. You really, really do, at least in the right mindset. So because I was then in that new loop of I desperately want to help people, and whenever I get a new message or an email or a request and they describe their current situation, where they want to be, I read this and I'm like, oh my goodness, I know what can help you. I really, really, really want to help you. Like I suddenly just feel such a connection to that person, which makes it hard to say no. So you see where I'm going with this. So I obviously didn't want to say no to anyone, but I was continuing to kind of enter that cycle of burnout. So I then decided, wouldn't it make so much sense if I could make the best curriculum possible and get everybody together in a group call and teach them the same things, but just kind of slightly tailor them if people have specific questions? That was where Create 1.0 was born. Create 1.0, we can call it Confidently Create because that was what the name was. That was such a test run. I was shitting myself. Oh my god, it was so scary. I've never like spoken in front of a group really, let alone like taught something that like I'm leading. So it was like so terrifying. The structure of 1.0 was 4 live sessions, and I had a presentation and I was teaching classes. So that's pretty much all it was. But also what everyone got was a half an hour one-to-one with me. And I think for a first time doing it, I think I did an incredible job. 2 sessions that I definitely know that I felt better in at least, but it was a perfect test run, and I'm really proud of myself for it. And then around 6-7 months later, I decided to run 2.0. 2.0 I ran slightly differently. Isabel actually joined and she taught a course. So we had 5 live sessions in total. I was teaching 4, Isabel was teaching 1, and it was pretty much the same concept. And they were like really good deep dive lessons and classes. However, what I then realized after running it 2 times, the problem that at least I found with like the way of soaking in information and actually learning, I know that if I was sat in one of those calls and I was just listening to someone for an hour, 90 minutes, talking through a topic, even though there's beautiful presentations on screen, so you know you're connecting visuals to words, it is so hard to just join a call at a random time that probably may not even suit you at a random point in the week, have intense information loaded into your brain in hopes that it sticks. And this also coincided with like my feelings of being in calls as well. Selfishly, I know that they drain my energy. And let's say for example, if I am a student and I have to think of like time zones here, the same call time might not suit everybody. So each time I actually ran it, only about half the people who joined the whole entire mastermind turned up to the live calls because they would just watch the recording afterwards. And then having this realization, well, if there's a lot of people that actually can't join the live calls, they're literally just watching the recording, what difference does it make if it's actually live? My second point before I go into the changes that I made, because I was quite new to speaking and like teaching to a group, I found that a lot of it is me talking. I'd leave spaces in between like interlude pages to be like, questions, thoughts, what do you think about this? But I think a lot of the time, like, it's quite tough to get people talking in a group. I know if the roles were reversed, I would be the most quiet. Like, I know I would have my camera off. I would just be so shy and uncomfortable that like I couldn't speak. So I literally totally understand, but that was the problem that I was having. I wanted them to feel more interactive. I wanted it to feel like more of a community. I wanted people to genuinely be supporting one another and actually holding each other accountable. And because people weren't showing up to the live calls, towards the end, it didn't feel worthless. That's like the wrong way to put it, but it just felt not 100% right. Then over the entire break, from 2.0 to 3.0, I was doing so much thinking, so much writing to try and figure out the best way that I could do this for myself and for everybody that joins, because I know why I'm doing this, but I just want to make it as best as it can be for the people who decide to join. So the revelations that I had, the live calls, listening to me blubber on, aren't as productive as I would love them to be. If it was me, I know that if I need to learn, because of the way that my mind works, I need to be in the right headspace. I would like to be in a quiet place, headphones on, there isn't really anyone interrupting me, and that also goes for being in a live call. I know if I join a live call, I am so overstimulated by the fact that I'm in a group call, nothing is gonna go in my ear. So I am so much better if I'm in the gym listening to something, or I am at home eating my food, headphones on, and I know that it's just me and I can actually soak things up. I can take notes and I can remember things so much better. Not everyone's gonna be the same as me, and I totally get that, but I think in general, it is so much better to be able to have the choice to take the class and soak it all up and learn it when you want to, as opposed to having it fit your schedule, because that's what I've decided. So that was change number one. Change number two was I wanted to make it bigger and better. There was only technically 4 or 5 weeks in the previous rounds. This time it's 12 weeks, and I feel so good about that, because another issue that I had before, I'm just quite soft with how I delivered it in the past. You do what works for you and blah, 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 blah. And I still believe in that, because everyone's different, everyone posts different content and has different schedules and, all that kind of stuff. However, I don't think there's any point investing in something like this unless you're actually going to take action and do it. Try. If you really want to, let's make it work. So that is exactly why I wanted to make it longer, so that you have a longer time period of like month 1, month 2, month 3 to really see some changes, and also have a lot more time with me to get me to help you more. So you can see that I actually felt quite passionate and quite excited about that. So then, because it's 3 months, they're gonna get 12 lessons as opposed to 4 or 5, which I think is an incredible change. But because I didn't want it all to feel pre-recorded and like very much like, it's already done for you, I still wanted there to be a live element so that we can kind of come together and have that community feeling and brainstorm and strategize. So I'm still doing live sessions, but they're bi-weekly. So there's 6 in total, but they're not going to have any structure to them. There's not going to be a presentation. I'm not going to be sharing my screen, and I'm most definitely not going to be the main person talking 90% of the time. I want it to be a space where, the people who have joined, they'll come and they'll share what they've been doing over the past 2 weeks, what was fucking hard, what was amazing, all the revelations and the sticky moments, because that is where the real growth is actually going to come from, when you can actually kind of acknowledge, oh, I didn't actually think that me posting an Instagram story every day in that week was a good thing, but actually, now that you say it, I'm really proud of myself for it. Yeah, I'm really excited for that. Again, you can tell, which it feels so much better, and I'm so glad that I gave myself the time to kind of re-strategize the whole thing. And the final change that I've made is I now have an actual community platform. So I invested in Circle, and that was something that I only did on Sunday because of all the fuck-ups that I had this week, which was so funny. I got Circle on Sunday, so I've been working so hard this week on setting the platform up so that everything is ready. I'm still quite new to the platform, but I think it's going to be the best investment that I could make, like €100 or $100 a month or something. Sensational. It's such a beautiful platform. I think it almost kind of feels slightly similar to Notion in a way, and I know that makes no sense, but it kind of does. And because I have Circle, it means that I can have the editing studio on Circle, and everything for Create, and the community chat and resources and the live calls. So everything is in one place. So for someone that wants to join and they don't want it to feel complicated, because who wants things to feel complicated, having everything in one place is so smart. What the fuck? So those are the changes. Because it's 3 months, it means that I'm realistically probably only gonna run it twice a year, maybe 3 times a year, depending on how I'm feeling, or at least how this round goes. Thoughts for things that I wouldn't do or things that I might do. I've thought do I change it so that it's available all the time? So, maybe there's always going to be one group session a month booked in the diary, and anyone who ever joins gets forever access. So you'll always have access to that one monthly call, and you'll always have access to the lesson. So whether I decide to do that, so it's not like 7 days left of early bird pricing and there feels like there's this big push on selling tickets for a certain time, it's just there for whenever you need it. I'm kind of contemplating whether I'm gonna do that for the next round, but again, I'm gonna see how this goes and how I feel, because again, I want it to feel exciting for everybody. So whether it feels like a bit more worthwhile for, you know, a person that's joining when they know that there's a few people that are joining with them at the same time, I think that's quite a nice thought. Things that I wouldn't do again, I definitely wouldn't do live teachings of deep topics again. My first time that I ran 1.0, I had a video editing class, and that was probably my worst class that I taught, which I'm so embarrassed to say, but I think it's so important to share your failures. And I'm sure the people who actually joined, like, probably they may not agree. Maybe they do, I don't know. But anyway, I struggled so hard to actually teach that class because I had prepared a whole presentation. Timing the presentations, they were running over so much in time. And it's actually just so hard to, at the time, to pre-make a presentation about video editing tips. So I would make these little mini tutorials and I would put them in Canva. And then because I'd be teaching it live in class, I'd be trying to speak through and like almost do a live voiceover of what's going on in the tutorial, but it was so hard to kind of like keep track of what the fuck was going on. So for someone that was listening and trying to learn how to edit videos, that was not useful. So then I just learned it is so much better for me if I can actually think about how I want to articulate a sentence and communicate it to you, because I get that learning something a little bit more like finicky and detailed, like editing, even like anything to do with social media, if someone's going to tell you something and it's going to be jumping from so many points, that's never going to get stuck in your head and it's never going to feel clear. So that was a really big revelation, and I'm so excited about like all the lessons that I've filmed and still need to film. But the one thing that I have still is the studio, which I pre-recorded, I think in like, I don't know when the fuck it was. Anyway, I love this studio and I'm so proud of it and I think it's so fun. It's just there and people can just take it whenever. So that is definitely what I wouldn't do again. I touched on this, but I think the one thing that I'm drilling in this time for the third round is the fact that like anyone who joins, they have to fucking take part and they have to work for the thing that they want, because it's not just gonna come by taking the calls, taking notes and listening. I don't want to say frustrates me, but I think like because there's so much work and there's so much prep that I put into it and I get so invested in the people who join, I really want you to make your dreams a reality. So if I see people not actually putting the work in or doing the things that they said at the beginning that they would do, I think it's just like, not, again, disheartening is the wrong word, but maybe it's a little bit disappointing. So I'm just like, from the get-go this time, I'm making it clear that 3.0 is about action, and if you aren't taking action, boy oh boy am I going to be checking in every week and asking you for real reasons why. I need a doctor's note. That is create. Real talks. I think in my mind, I was hoping for the launch week to have gone better. I think I gave myself like an actual target this time of saying like early bird pricing is only going to be available for 7 days and then it's just going to go up to full price, which I think makes sense. I think most people will probably get their space when early bird is available. Yeah, I think I kind of in my head give myself higher targets than I probably should have. Genuinely just because of the amount of time that I spent thinking on this and working on it. It's not the end of the week yet. So, but I'm still proud of myself and I'm still so happy. Like, if anyone joined, that was a win. Even if I was doing this with 2 people, that absolutely still takes off the reason why I've created this in the first place, because I want to help as many people as I can, but it just wasn't sustainable for me to be doing one-on-one anymore. My knees are killing me. I'm so old. I'm so tired. I've been filming all day. I've been filming long form all day. A couple of segments that I already filmed that I think I will include. I had a revelation this week about a podcast that I watched on copywriting. So I'm going to include that clip here. An amazing piece of content that I consumed last week on YouTube. I think it was like a 75-minute YouTube video on copywriting. I'll put the thumbnail like big on the screen. It was sensational. The guy, I think his name was Harry, that was delivering it. I followed him on Instagram and I even messaged him because I was like, you are a genius. And I just have to let you know, I'm sure you have a billion people telling you that. I don't know anything about copywriting. It's not something I've learned. It's not an area that I want to move into professionally, but I definitely 100% see the benefit in knowing how to write for yourself and for your business. And one of the things that Harry said was that he doesn't have any sentences or lines in his newsletter or in his copy that are longer than 2 sentences. And in my mind, I was like, oh my God, everything I write in my captions, like on Instagram, on I guess like the description in YouTube, maybe any like emails that I've sent out, I do big paragraphs. And now that I'm looking at it in a new way, that makes it so much harder to read. And it actually takes so much value away from the point that you're actually saying. So now I have it in my head when I'm actually writing. There's just like, a couple of things that Harry said in that interview where they're just now stuck in my brain, which I'm so happy about. It's the positive effects of social media and actually using social media for good so that you can learn and train your mind and your brain better. It's not all bad. And ever since, I have watched 2 more videos on copywriting from the same guy. I'm kind of obsessed, and it's actually just making me so excited each time I go to write a newsletter, write a caption, write something for my circle platform. I made a video that I'm really proud of. It's on my Instagram and it's on my TikTok. Like, I made it yesterday. I filmed it on my DJI. Like, I literally just had like a similar setup to this, and I just recorded and I just like edited it and I posted it. It's a landscape video on Instagram and TikTok, and it's actually performed like better than I thought. And that made my creative cup fill right back up to the top. Like, it was so rewarding to just do something for the fun of it, as opposed to doing something because you feel like it's gonna work. That's what you've done in the past, or that's what's working on Instagram. I feel quite good right now. I just feel really, really, really tired. I'm gonna share more on that video in next week's YouTube video because it was an editing tutorial. I think I'm gonna post that video as the intro, and then I'm gonna do a deep dive on each of the segments. I think that'll be really interesting because I definitely want to talk about editing more, but not do it in a really complicated way. I'm so tired and I need to edit this video now. So I think I'm gonna stop the video. I wanted to it would be a random update. I knew that this was what this video was gonna be, and that's totally fine. No sexy, spicy, gorgeous editing, a genuine update, and a tick on my box for consistency for another week. So much love. I promise next week's video is gonna be really good. Thank you for sticking around and watching. Any thoughts or like ideas or anything that you want to hear, please let me know and I will talk about them, answer questions. I hope that you have a fabulous week, a fabulous Sunday if you're watching on Sunday, and we'll see you next week.